I want to tell you about a moment that changed how I think about clothing entirely. I was at a board dinner in Midtown, seated next to a woman who chairs the compensation committee of a company most of you would recognize. She was wearing something simple, a dark, structured dress, nothing remarkable on a hanger. But on her, in that room, it read as authority. Later that evening, a younger woman at the table, brilliant, accomplished, wearing something objectively more expensive, was quietly overlooked in a conversation that mattered. I watched it happen. And I understood, in that moment, that something other than money was determining who got taken seriously. Most women believe elegance is about acquisition, the right brand, the right trend, the right price point. They spend years and considerable money chasing that theory, and the results never quite match the investment. The truth is far more precise and far less expensive than you've been led to believe. There are 3 rules, not preferences, not trends, but rules with research behind them, that elegant women never break, regardless of age, regardless of budget. Today, I'm giving you all 3 with the exact mechanics of why they work. Before we go into the details of today's video, I have a free gift for you. It's something I know you'd appreciate. I have read a lot of comments from some of you asking for this, and I decided to build a checklist around it. It is called the Elegant Morning Routine Checklist. 12 rituals of women who are timeless, healthy, and undeniable after 40. It is the morning architecture that puts everything I described today into daily practice. Cortisol protection, protein-first nutrition, movement, silence, grooming standards, and the identity rituals that make all of it sustainable. Every page is a deliberate act of self-respect. See the first link in the description below to grab it right now for free? Or scan the QR code on your screen if you're watching on TV. When you do get it, remember to email me your feedback about your takeaway from it. I love to read those emails. Now let's get into today's 3 rules. Rule 1, Part 1, Fit over price. Most women believe the most important factor in how a garment makes them appear is the brand or the price tag. This belief costs women thousands of dollars a year and produces almost none of the effect they're hoping for. I'm going to show you what actually determines how competent and successful you appear in clothing, and the answer has almost nothing to do with what you spent. But first, there's something you need to understand. In my 15 years consulting for luxury fashion brands, I sat through countless fittings with women at every income level, some in pieces costing 4 figures, some in considerably less. The pattern that emerged had nothing to do with the receipt. It had to do with whether the garment had been altered to the woman's actual body or simply purchased to her general size. I remember a specific consultation early in my career. A senior executive preparing for a major presentation, wearing a beautifully made blazer in exactly her size, off the rack. It looked on the hanger like exactly the right choice. On her, in the mirror, it pulled slightly at the shoulder and sat a fraction too loose at the waist. We sent it to a tailor for $40 of alteration. The difference when she returned was not subtle. It was the difference between a woman wearing a blazer and a woman who looked like she ran the room. There is research behind this that I find genuinely fascinating. A study examining perceived competence and professional judgment found that participants consistently rated individuals in well-fitted clothing as more competent, more trustworthy, and more likely to be promoted, regardless of the actual cost or brand of the garment. Fit, the researchers concluded, functions as a proxy for self-respect and attention to detail, which the brain reads almost instantly as competence. Think of it like architecture. A building made of inexpensive materials, properly proportioned, reads as intentional. A building made of expensive materials, badly proportioned, reads as a mistake. Clothing operates by the same logic. Resolve. Before you buy another expensive piece, take what you already own to a tailor. $40 to $60 in most cases will transform garments you already paid full price for. Fit is not a finishing touch. It is the primary variable, doing more to shape how competent you appear than the price tag ever will. But fit alone will not protect you from the second mistake almost every woman makes. One that happens before fit even enters the picture, at the moment a color is held up to her face. And what I'm about to tell you about that test most women rely on will surprise you, because it was never designed with her in mind. Rule 1, Part 2, the color test that wasn't built for you. Most women have, at some point, done a version of the seasonal color test. Warm versus cool, the scarf test, the jewelry test. They trust it. And most of them are applying a framework that was developed decades ago, calibrated to a narrower range of skin tones and undertones than the one she's actually working with today. I'm going to give you the test that actually works for your current skin. But first, you need to understand why the inherited test so often fails. The seasonal color analysis system that most women still reference traces back to color theory work developed in the mid-20th century, built around a relatively limited set of reference skin tones. It was never updated with the rigor that modern dermatological and colorimetric research now allows. And critically, it does not account for the way skin's actual pigmentation and undertone shift with age, sun exposure, and hormonal changes. The test a woman did at 25 is frequently obsolete by 50. I learned this directly from a dermatologist in my network here in New York, someone whose clients include women at the absolute top of their fields. She explained that as estrogen declines, skin pigmentation patterns change. Areas of hyperpigmentation increase, the skin's reflective quality shifts, and the undertone a woman tested for in her 20s is frequently no longer accurate. She does not test color against a chart. She tests it against the woman's skin that day in natural light, against the inner wrist and the décolletage simultaneously, because the two areas can read differently after 50. A friend of mine, a corporate attorney who made partner at 38, told me she had spent a decade avoiding certain shades of coral because a color consultant told her at 26 that her undertone couldn't support them. At 51, on a whim, she tried one again. It was extraordinary on her. Her skin had changed. The verdict hadn't. Resolve: test every color against your actual current skin, not a memory of a test you took years ago. Hold the fabric directly against your bare skin in natural daylight at both your inner wrist and your collarbone, and watch what it does to the brightness and clarity of your complexion right now. If a color makes your skin look more luminous, it's yours. If it flattens or dulls you, set it aside, regardless of what any chart from another decade ever told you. But here's where most people stop, and stopping here leaves an incomplete picture. Because once you understand fit and color, there's a third trap waiting, one that affects even women who have mastered restraint. And what separates an elegant, composed look from one that simply reads as unfinished is more precise than most women realize. Rule 2, where minimalism stops working. Restraint has become fashionable advice. Fewer pieces, quieter colors, less embellishment. Most women hear this and assume the goal is simplicity for its own sake, that less is categorically more. That assumption produces outfits that don't read as elegant. They read as unfinished, and most women can't explain why. I'm going to show you the exact point where minimalism stops working and starts undermining you. But first, there's something you need to understand about what makes restraint register as elegance rather than absence. I have watched this distinction play out countless times at the dinners and events I attend in New York. There is a particular kind of woman who appears in something genuinely simple, a column of color, minimal accessories, and reads as commanding. And there is another woman, equally minimal, who reads as though she forgot to finish getting dressed. The difference is never the amount of restraint. It is what I call the anchor point. A friend of mine who sits on 5 corporate boards once told me, after a gallery opening, that she always asks herself one question before leaving the house: where is the deliberate moment? One element, a striking earring, a particular red lip, a sculptural bag, a precisely tailored cuff that signals the simplicity, was a decision, not an oversight. There is research on this from visual perception studies on what's called intentionality signaling in dress. Observers consistently distinguish between minimal outfits that contain one clear focal point and minimal outfits that contain none. The former reads as edited, the latter reads as absent. The brain needs at least one signal that says, a choice was made here. The analogy I return to often is a well-edited sentence. Remove every adjective and you don't get clarity. You get a sentence with no voice. The skill isn't deletion. It's choosing the one word that earns its place and removing everything that doesn't. Resolve. Every restrained outfit needs exactly one anchor point, one deliberate, slightly louder element that signals intention. Without it, restraint reads as absence. With it, restraint reads as mastery. Choose your anchor before you leave the house every time. But here's where most people stop, and the framework is still missing a piece most women have never considered at all. Because the clothing touching your actual skin is doing a different job entirely than the clothing on top of it, and treating them the same way is quietly undermining everything else you've just learned. Rule 3, Part 1. The base layer is not the outer layer. Most women shop for everything, the blouse, the slip, the camisole underneath the blazer, using the same single criteria. How does it look? But the piece against your actual skin has an entirely different job than the piece the world sees, and choosing them by the same standard quietly sabotages both. I'm going to show you exactly how to separate these decisions. But first, you need to understand the physiological difference at play, which is what the Undeniable's complete system, 7 complete guides covering identity, presence, first impressions, social mastery, wellness, standards, and your morning ritual, built into one premium curriculum for women who are decided about how they age. Everything the most elegant, vital, and undeniable version of you needs, in one place, for less than a dinner out. It is linked in the description. Go there next. It's linked in the description below. I learned the importance of this distinction the hard way. In my late 30s, wearing a beautifully structured silk blouse to a board dinner in a synthetic blend camisole underneath, and spending the entire evening uncomfortable, slightly damp, and distracted in a way that affected my composure more than I expected. A dermatologist I spoke with explained that skin temperature regulation, sensitivity, and the skin barrier itself change measurably after 40. Synthetic fibers that were tolerable at 28 can trap heat and moisture in ways that disrupt comfort, confidence, and even skin health over time. Research on textile physiology confirms this clearly. Natural fibers like silk, cotton, and fine merino regulate temperature and moisture far more effectively against the skin than synthetic blends, which trap heat and friction. The outer layer's job is visual: structure, line, color. The base layer's job is physiological: comfort, temperature regulation, skin health. They require entirely different fabric criteria. Resolve. Choose your base layer, anything against bare skin, for fiber quality first: silk, cotton, fine merino. Choose your outer layer for structure and line. Stop applying one standard to both. The base layer that's wrong won't show up visually. It will show up in your composure, your comfort, and eventually your confidence in the room. There's one final rule, and it's the one that determines whether you look like a woman styled with awareness of the moment or a woman simply wearing the moment. The distinction is sharper than most people realize. Rule 3, Part 2. One trend element category. Trends aren't the enemy. Elegant women incorporate them constantly. But there's one specific mistake that turns trend awareness into something that reads as the opposite of elegance entirely, and almost no one names it explicitly. I'm going to give you the exact rule that prevents it. But first, there's something specific you need to understand about how trend elements compound. I observed this distinction clearly during my years in luxury fashion consulting, watching how the most sophisticated women in my network incorporated each season's trends. They never let the same trend element repeat across more than one category in a single outfit. A woman might wear this season's exact shade of red as her lip color and nowhere else. Or she might wear an oversized silhouette in her blazer and pair it with something entirely classic everywhere else. One trend element, one category, never two. A venture capitalist I know in Silicon Valley described the opposite mistake perfectly. She once wore the trending color as her dress, her bag, and her shoes in the same week she was raising a funding round, and described feeling, in her words, like she dressed as a Pinterest board rather than herself. The moment a single trend repeats across multiple categories, the outfit stops reading as an individual styled with current awareness and starts reading as someone simply wearing the trend itself. The analogy that captures this best: think of trend elements like seasoning in a dish. One well-placed element elevates everything around it. The same element repeated across every component overwhelms the dish entirely, and you can no longer taste anything else, including the cook's actual skill. Resolve, pick one trend element per outfit. One category, lip color, or bag, or silhouette, or accessory. Never two. This single rule is the difference between looking like a woman with awareness of the moment and looking like a woman the moment is wearing. Here's the complete framework because all three rules work together as one system. Rule 1 begins with fit, the single greatest determinant of how competent you appear, regardless of price, and extends to color, tested against your skin as it actually is today, not as a chart from decades ago decided it should be. Rule 2 protects your restraint from collapsing into absence by anchoring every minimal outfit with one deliberate, intentional element. And Rule 3 governs your layers and your trends together. Your base layer, chosen for physiology, your outer layer for line, and never more than one trend element appearing across more than one category at once. None of this requires a larger budget. It requires precision. The women who are recognized instantly as elegant are not spending more. They are applying these three rules with a consistency most women have never been taught to hold. And now, you have exactly what you need to hold them too. You came here for 3 style rules. What you're leaving with is a framework that will outlast every trend you ever encounter, and that is worth far more. The next step is the full blueprint. The Undeniables Complete System. 7 complete guides covering identity, presence, first impressions, social mastery, wellness, standards, and your morning ritual. Everything the most elegant, vital, and undeniable version of you needs, built into one system for less than a dinner out. It's linked in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Isabel.